Hey everybody, Chris Russo here. Thanks for joining us for video number 3 in our series Understanding Medicare at 65. It's a 5-part series that's going to show you what you need to do once you're coming up on your 65th birthday as far as Medicare and supplemental plans. In this video specifically, we're going to be diving deep into Medigap plans. Those are also known as Medicare supplement plans and Medicare Part D standalone prescription plans. So we're going to go back to our overall big picture of Medicare. We looked at this for the first time in the last video, and we can see that basically everything on the page here is divided between the left side of the page and the right side of the page. So kind of throughout this video, I'm going to call it the path on the left and the path on the right, because in your Medicare journey, you've got to pick a path. You can't go down both. So we're going to continue down the path on the left because we already talked in the last video about Medicare Part A, Medicare Part B, what they cover, what they cost, and where there are gaps in coverage. You can see when we continue down the path on the left, the next thing we're going to get to is Part D, standalone prescription plans. I'm actually going to skip over those and talk about those at the end of the video. And next we're going to talk about these Medigap plans and see how they fit in and work directly with Medicare Part A and Part B. The first thing that we need to cover when we're talking about Medigap plans, before we get into the plans you have available to you, it's something called the Medigap Open Enrollment Period. So this is a 6-month period that starts when both of two things are true. So both of these have to be true in order for it to start. You need to be 65 and older, and you need to have Medicare Part B. So if you happen to be on Medicare younger than 65, this period has not started yet for you because you got to be 65 and older. And on the other hand, if you happen to be working past 65, so let's say you're 70 and you're retiring and you've never had Part B because you've been covered at work, once you do get Part B, this open enrollment period will start for you. It's a 6-month period that occurs one time in your life, and what it allows you to do in it is get any Medigap plan you want to with no questions asked, and insurance companies can't turn you down, can't make you wait for coverage, or can't charge you anymore. So it's a one-time period in your life, and that's why you really want to take advantage of it and make the best decision you can, because anytime you look to either join or switch a Medigap plan later, there will be health questions involved. All right, so the best way to really learn how Medigap plans work is to take a look at this chart. It shows you all the Medigap plans that are available this year in 2020. The chart might look a little confusing at first glance, but we're going to break it down and understand how the different parts work. So the column on the left is where I want to start. You can see that the header at the top says benefits. I think a better description for this column is either cost shares or liabilities, because these are the different parts of Medicare Part A and B that you're liable for before Medicare covers what they cover. So basically, these are the different parts of Medicare Part A and B that we went over in the last video. You can see the Part A and Part B deductible. Those are those cost shares that come into play that you have to meet before Medicare will pay their part. We talked about the Medicare Part B coinsurance, that 20% after Medicare pays its 80%. So basically, the column on the left shows what you're responsible for. If we look at it across the top, it shows you the Medigap plans that you have available to you this year. So if we go across the top and look at Plan F, for example, the way to read the chart and understand how the plan works is that if a particular Medigap plan, looking at it from top to bottom, has a percentage, usually 100%, in the box for a particular cost share, that means that it pays for that percentage of the cost share instead of you. So taking in, for example, that Part A deductible with Plan F, if you happen to be admitted to the hospital, instead of you being liable for that and responsible for that $1,408 Part A deductible, that means Plan F would pay it for you. So with Plan F, you can see there's coverage for every single thing, which means between Medicare and a Medigap Plan F, for example, it's going to pay for just about everything for you. All right, so let's talk about some specific Medigap plans. And since I already mentioned Plan F, we'll start there. Unfortunately, if you're new to Medicare, starting in 2020 and later, you can no longer get Plan F. So Congress came out with a rule a few years ago. Plan F was the most popular plan for years and years, but Congress said that starting in 2020, Plan F's not going to be available to folks new to Medicare. If you know somebody that already has Plan F, or really anybody that has been eligible for Medicare before this year, they still can get Plan F, and they can keep Plan F if they have it now. They're grandfathered in. But just know that if you are interested in getting that plan and you're new to Medicare this year and beyond, you just no longer have this plan available to you as an option. So since Medigap Plan F is not an option for you, if we look at the chart again, we can see that the plan that provides the most amount of coverage after Plan F is Plan G, and you do have that plan available to you. So that plan 2020 moving forward will be the plan that has the most amount of coverage. You can see there's only one thing that it's not covering, only one liability that you have, and that's the Medicare Part B deductible. So the way the plan works is anything Part A related, you can see there's coverage for everything there. Anything Part B related, then once you meet $198 between Medicare and your Plan G, it's going to pay anything for you for the rest of the calendar year. So I'd say moving forward that Plan G is going to be the most popular Medigap plan really for the next several years. But the one thing that you do want to be careful of with Plan G is the coverage. What you see in the chart didn't change in 2020, but something that did change kind of behind the scenes. Medigap Plan G before this year was not one of the guaranteed issue Medigap plans. And for the first time in 2020 and moving forward, Plan G is a guaranteed issue plan. So what does that mean? Well, only about half of the Medigap plans are guarantee issue, and to really understand what's kind of happening behind the scenes and why you need to know about it and why you need to be careful of it, let's dive into a later page in the Medigap booklet to see what's going on with these guarantee issue types of coverage. So why does it really matter that Plan G is now becoming a guaranteed issue plan for the first time? How does that impact you? Well, let's dive into exactly what guaranteed issue plans are, or guaranteed issue rights. We can see on page 21 of our Medigap booklet, it talks about guaranteed issue rights are for folks that go through certain situations that they can get certain Medigap policies, not all of them, but just certain Medigap policies without having to qualify for them, without having to answer health questions. They're guaranteed to get those guaranteed issue plans. It's just like the situation that you're going through when you get on Medicare for the first time and you're in your Medigap Open Enrollment period that we had discussed a few minutes ago, where you can get any Medigap plan you want to with no health questions. The reason that it impacts you is because insurance companies charge their premiums, their monthly premiums for Medigap plans, based on the amount of healthcare claims that they have to pay out. So if a plan is guaranteed issue, and it has to take people going through certain situations with no health questions, then that just makes sense that the insurance company is going to have to pay out more for those people in healthcare claims, which is going to drive the rates up, the premiums up over time for plans that are guaranteed issue. Here we can see the 2 pages of guaranteed issue situations that kind of explain the different things that would be these qualifying events, these certain circumstances where folks would have a guaranteed issue situation. So if we look at the second one down, this is very common where companies will decide to terminate or they'll end retiree coverage, and instead they'll require their retirees now to get their own Medigap coverage. So let's say if you're a retiree and you're in your early 70s, and you lost coverage from your company, and now you have a guarantee issue situation. Well, if you wanted to get Plan G, you could get Plan G with no health questions. If you wanted to get a plan like Plan N or any of the other plans that are not guaranteed issue, you'd have to qualify. And if you were managing certain chronic conditions, let's say if you had cancer, or if you just had a stroke, or maybe you had surgery coming up, then if you wanted to get Plan N, you probably wouldn't be able to because you wouldn't be able to pass those health questions at that time. But Plan G, you could get that plan under your guaranteed issue right. So if we just look at 2 plans like Plan G and Plan N side by side, Plan G will have to pay out more in healthcare claims just overall. That means their rates are going to go up faster than the other non-guaranteed issue Medigap plans, which it might not be a big difference, but if we're just looking at, let's say, a 2 or 3% difference each year compounded every year moving forward. If you're looking at a 5 or 10 year or even a larger time frame, the Plan G rates could really get much more expensive that much faster than the other Medigap plans that are not guaranteed issue. So a plan that provides a really nice alternative to Plan G is Medigap Plan N. If we go back to the chart, we can kind of see some of the similarities and differences between Plan G and Plan N. The first similarity to point out is both of them still have that Medicare Part B deductible responsibility. So whether you went with G or N, you'd still have to meet that first. Now some of the differences, once you meet that deductible with Plan N, instead of the plan paying everything Part B related for you the rest of the year, now you do have a couple cost-sharing responsibilities. The first thing is that you have to pay co-pays for some office visits of up to $20. You owe co-pays for an emergency room visit of up to $50, but if you happen to go into the ER and you're admitted to the hospital right away, that ER visit now is covered by Part A, so they would waive your Part B $50 copay. And just something else to point out about the $20 copays for office visits, there's actually a very limited scope of office visits that you're responsible for paying a copay for. So it really has to involve a copay with a physician. So generally, if you went in for, let's say you're getting chemo, going for a chemo treatment, or you're going to a physical therapist or a chiropractor, for the most part, you're not seeing a physician when you're having those visits. So there really shouldn't be a copay that's applied in those situations. I want to turn your attention now to a memo that Medicare released in 2010 that shows you in a little bit more detail what you should expect to pay that maximum $20 copay for. So just to look a little bit closer at what those maximum $20 copays could apply toward, you can see question number 2 here in our memo on the CMS website, which is Medicare's website, that it mentions how the $20 copay only applies towards certain CPT codes. Now, CPT codes are billing codes that are used on claim forms that get submitted by healthcare providers' offices to Medicare. So you can see if the CPT code that's used is not one of the 15 codes listed here, 99201 through 99205, 99211 through 99215, as well as the other 5 that are listed, then that $20 copay that you'd have with Plan N would not come into play. And the very last difference between Plan G and Plan N are something known as Part B excess charges. Part B excess charges are charged by doctors that don't accept Medicare's billing amount for their service. They're allowed to charge a fixed % more than what the Medicare approved amount would be. So if you ever saw one of those, they're called non-participating providers. A very small percentage of doctors do fall in this category, but those doctors do reserve the right to charge those excess charges. So if you did receive some type of treatment or procedure with that a non-participating physician, then with Plan G, any excess charges would be paid by the plan, where if you had Plan N, you'd be responsible for that fixed % more on top of whatever that Medicare approved amount would be. Now that we've seen how Medigap plans work, how they're basically paying for the Medicare Part A and Part B cost shares instead of you, and we've taken a look at some of the more popular Medigap plans, how do you know which one to pick and how do you know what insurance company to get it through? So in making your decision, I think there's 3 things that you really need to consider. The first is that Medigap plans are standardized. So what standardization means is Medigap plans with the same letter from company to company are identical in coverage, but where they can differ and actually differ quite a bit is in cost. So for example, if there's 50 insurance companies that have a Plan N in your area, then it's identical coverage from company to company, but the cost from one company to the next can actually be quite different. And if we take a look again inside that Medigap booklet that we've already looked at a couple times, they make sure to point it out and really highlight it here in bold at the bottom, is that cost is usually the only difference when you're looking at company to company for the exact same coverage plan. The next thing to consider when you're deciding on a Medigap plan is, of course, the decision when you first turn 65 is very important. You want to pick the plan that's going to suit you best. But a good way to approach this decision is you shouldn't be married to your plan. You should be rather dating your plan. Kind of what I mean by that is if you're able to switch your Medigap coverage every so many years, it's really the best way to keep your rate low, because even if your budget and healthcare needs don't change very much as you get older, the plans actually can go up quite a bit in premium. New companies can offer plans, new plans can be available. So if you have the flexibility and if you're able to switch every so many years, it's really the best way to keep your rate low. And the last thing to consider when you're deciding which Medigap plan to sign up with and what insurance company to get it through is basically how you go about selecting the person that's going to help you enroll. So some of your choices are either to fill out something in the mail and send it back to that company, sign up with an independent agent, wait for a phone call, and basically sign up over the phone when a telemarketer calls you. So there's definitely a lot of different ways to sign up, but thinking about it from a longer term standpoint, you not only want to work with somebody that can offer you a lot of options and not just a limited amount of options or one particular company when you're first picking a plan, so you want to be able to have a choice at first, but also to work with somebody that's going to know your situation, that's going to be able to offer many different companies, many different plans, because like I mentioned a few minutes ago, you want to be able to switch your plan moving forward in order to keep your rate low. So go with somebody that can give you a lot of choices to start with, is able to keep in touch with you on a regular basis moving forward, and can really work with you to answer any questions you might have along the way. A lot of times if you sign up with a company directly, you're never going to be talking to the same person, whereas if you sign up with an agent, even though they're going to work with many different insurance companies, they're your personal representative and they're your go-to contact with any problems or any questions you have with any Medigap plan that you get enrolled with to start. So now that we've looked at Medigap plans, we have a pretty good feel for how they work, the different types that are out there, and have a general idea how to pick one. Let's zoom back out to the big picture. We'll go over that piece of Medicare that we skipped, and these are going to be your standalone prescription plans. So Part D of Medicare, a good way to remember it is D is for drugs. You can actually get Part D a couple different ways. Today we're going to be talking about getting a standalone Part D plan, where in the next video we're going to be talking about getting Part D through a Medicare Advantage plan. So the best way to find the most cost-efficient standalone prescription plan available to you is to use a tool called the Medicare Plan Finder. And now we're going to get into kind of a demo of how you get into the Plan Finder and really find the most cost-efficient plan based on your unique situation. Okay, so this is going to be a demo into the Medicare Plan Finder. This tool is quite useful. It's what I've been using for 8 years for all my clients to help them find the most cost-efficient drug plan. It is a tool you can use on your own. It's free. It's just available. You can see it's on the Medicare.gov on Medicare's homepage on the government's website here. But it can be a little cumbersome, a little difficult to use, especially if you kind of go down the wrong path. You can kind of go down a deep rabbit hole where it might be a little confusing to use and interpret the results. So this is a tool that I use for all of my clients to help you find the most cost-efficient drug plan. And my service is free to you when I do that for you, because I would get compensated by whatever prescription drug plan that I'd help you get signed up with. So another thing to mention is that Medicare kind of redoes its homepage every so often. Sometimes there's small changes, subtle changes, and other times they just do a massive overhaul like they did last fall. So even though this page might not look identical when you're watching this video compared to when I'm recording this video, it at least should be fairly similar and give you a pretty good idea of how to navigate kind of the main ideas and the main components of this plan finder, so you can get a pretty good idea of how to use it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is click this Find Plans. It'll take me to the next page. Medicare generally wants you to create an account. You can log in or create an account. It'll take you to mymedicare.gov, but in general, when I'm doing this for clients, I'm just doing this anonymously. We're going to go to Continue without logging in. You can see what drug plans are going to cost, or drug costs are going to be, both with a Medicare Advantage plan and with a standalone drug plan. So we're going to, in this video, we're going to click Standalone Drug Plan, just Part D by itself, and enter in a zip code. That's going to tell us what county we're in. If you happen to be in a zip code where there are more than one county available, it just asks you to pick which county you reside in that zip code. Here, if you get help with your costs from programs like Extra Help or a Medicare Savings Program, and you know for sure you're getting those cost-sharing assistance, go ahead and pick one of those other options. But in general, I'm just going to pick I don't get any help from any of those programs. We're going to click Next. Answer yes, we do want to see drug costs. And I almost always answer both, because here we can see what cost-sharing options are going to be both with retail or mail-order pharmacies. I'm going to click Next. I'm going to enter in a few medications of some common medications that folks take. Omeprazole is a very common one for acid reflux. And then you can pick the dosage. I'm just going to pick the 20 milligrams. You can pick, if let's say you're getting a 3-month supply, you can pick every 3 months and enter 90 pills every 3 months. But in general, just to keep it simple, I'm just going to do it 1 month at a time. So 30 pills every 3 months would be something you take once a day. I'm going to click Add to your drug list. We're going to add another drug. Metformin is a common medication that folks take. You can see as you start to type it, it's going to bring up some choices here in the drop-down list underneath. Metformin can be paired. Anytime you see the slash, it's a combo drug, so it's something that can be paired with something else. So glyburide or glipizide with metformin, those are some options. For the most part, when folks are taking metformin, it's just generally metformin hydrochloride. Going to pick that one, click the Add Drug. Here it's going to show you some different dosage options. So either the 500 or the 1000 is the most common that I see. When drugs are offered as, let's say, CR or ER or DR, those are going to be things like extended release, continuous release, delayed release. So this ER, for example, is going to be extended release 24-hour. So sometimes either the tablet or the capsule is going to be an option too. So some drugs could have a 5 milligram tablet and a 5 milligram capsule. So anytime you can enter whether it's ER or whether it's not ER or whether it's a tablet or a capsule, anytime you can enter that drug selection the most accurately you can, it's going to give you the most accurate results, because those different choices you have can result in different drug costs. So sometimes the tablet could be a lot less expensive than the capsule. So in the metformin case, we're going to pick 500 milligram tablet. Going to pick 60 a month because the most common quantity for this dosage is going to be twice a day. Going to pick that one and going to enter one other drug. Eliquis is a very common drug for heart rhythm disorders. So I'm going to pick Eliquis, going to click Add Drug, and our choice here, we're going to pick the 5 milligram tablet, click Add to your drug list, and once we're done, going to click Done Adding Drugs. This tool right now lets us pick 3 pharmacies. Since I selected the mail order as one of our choices, I'm going to pick, let's say, CVS and Walmart as our 2 other choices. If we scroll down to the bottom, here you can see our 3 choices at the bottom. Going to click Done. That's now going to take us to our overall results. So here you can see for our results, we've got 30 drug plans available in both our zip code and the county we reside in. There's different ways that you can sort your plan. So you can sort it a few different ways. You can sort the plans by drug deductible or by lowest monthly premium. The one that I like best, and it's going to really help you find the most cost-efficient plan, is to sort it by lowest drug plus premium cost. What that's going to do is it's going to look at all your plans, all 30 plans you have available to you. It's going to look at not only the monthly premium of all the plans, but it's going to look at the copays for all the medications that you tell it, and it's going to total everything up for the rest of the year and put the plan that has the lowest total between all the premiums, all the copays, going to put that one at the top. So the one that's most cost efficient, and it's going to look at the results for the rest of the year. So I'm doing this demo in June. It's going to look at the results for me for July through December, so for the rest of this year. And you can see that the lowest total cost here is going to be $631.32. It's got this particular plan that it put at the top has a $54.20 premium. If we just scroll down and see this, the plan that's second has a $655.20 total. Here it shows our premium again. The third one has a total of $622, and the fourth one has a total of $691. This is the first plan in the list where the premium for the monthly premium of the plan has started to come down. So even though this plan has a monthly premium that's a lot lower than the three above it, its total annual cost is higher. And that's because the copays for the three medications we told it that we're taking are much higher. So the plan that gives you your lowest total overall cost is going to be the one at the top. So we're going to want to click on Plan Details and look at this plan in a bit greater detail. We know that the plan has a $54.20 premium. It's got a $100 deductible, meaning you've got to meet $100 before the plan starts to pay its part. Not necessarily for every medication, but for some medications. So it looks like with this plan, Walmart is a preferred pharmacy. If you go to Walmart, your cost before you meet that $100 deductible is going to be $42. So it's giving you, it looks like it's giving you a discount. The insurance is paying for helping you in your cost sharing even before you meet your deductible for the Eliquis, for metformin, for omeprazole. It's showing you what your retail cost of your medication is, what your cost is before your deductible, after your deductible, how much it'll be in the coverage gap. The coverage gap is also called the donut hole. You may have heard that term. So yeah, once you get into this particular page, it really helps break down each of the drug plans into more detail and give you an idea of how much you should expect to pay either before or after the deductible. It shows you what your estimated drug and premium costs are going to be together for the rest of the year. It's showing you that the cost underneath here does not show what it is, including the premium. It's basically showing you what your estimated copays are per month. You can compare that 5102, how it compares to the 5102. So basically your drug copays are going to be 5102 per month at Walmart. Notice that it's a preferred pharmacy. CVS is a standard pharmacy. So almost every Medicare Part D drug plan will break down the pharmacies that accept the insurance into preferred and into standard pharmacies. And you can simply see that the preferred pharmacies are going to be less expensive. It's going to be giving you preferred pricing. So 5102 are going to be your total copays. If you went to a standard pharmacy now instead, it's going to be $66.40. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive, and your total drug costs as a result are going to be higher for the year. So that's why this plan, it's taking the pharmacies that you tell it that you want to go to, and it's factoring in that into the decision, and it's showing you that even though you picked CVS, you picked Walmart too. So it's giving you the best cost would be for this particular plan, and just in general overall with all the plans, to use this Cigna plan in particular and going to Walmart specifically. And then it shows you what your costs are going to be through the mail, and the mail order costs are always 3 months at a time. And the last thing that it kind of gives you a bit more information about your specific drugs. It tells you what tier they're in. Generally the tier 1 and tier 2 drugs are generic. Tier 3 and higher are going to be brand name drugs, which are more expensive. If there's any quantity limits, you can hover over this quantity limit and you can see if there's any restrictions like prior authorization, quantity limits, or step therapy. If there's any of these restrictions, you can hover over them to see what they are. And then at the bottom, it just shows you what quantity we chose for each of the medications. So again, wonderful tool. Can be a little bit cumbersome to use. I'm definitely able to help you out with it, but if you wanted to use it on your own, hopefully this demo will give you a pretty good idea of at least how to get into it and understand what the different parts are telling you as far as overall costs and finding the most cost-efficient drug plan. So that's going to do it for video 3 here in our 5-part series, Understanding Medicare at 65. If you have any questions or comments about anything we've gone over in this video or any of the other videos in this series so far, go ahead and leave those below and I'll get to them just as soon as I can. If you found this video helpful, if you could hit that like button and subscribe button underneath the video, it not only helps me grow my channel, but it'll help you get notified just a little bit faster when I release the other videos later in this series or really any other Medicare related video in the future. So thanks again for joining us, and I look forward to seeing you for video number 4. Take care.